What's going on, everyone? What's going on?
Internet. We're back, internet. We're
Yeah,
back.
we're back. We're back.
In your face
We're back.
again. Once again. We're
Yes.
back.
Once
Despite
again, we're
your best
back.
efforts.
You know? Oh no,
We're never going
yeah.
away.
We're never going away. He's right.
Long live the Empire.
Yeah. And as you guys know, this is nothing crazy. This is a Monday, so we are live doing our May the 4th, basically our live reaction to our May the 4th content, which was a new Accolade trailer as well as Star Wars Tales of the Empire. So yeah, we're gonna try to we're gonna react to it as quick as possible. So different time slot for you guys because we wanted to come on and definitely react to what we saw this weekend. So hopefully everybody got a chance to check that out. But spoiler alert, that's what we'll be talking about. But before we even dive into that stuff, let's let our guy DP let you guys know where to find us at.
Nerdcyclopedia.com, people, where you will get all our social media at Nerdcyclopedia. On Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and also on TikTok, ? All right. Make sure that you listen to us on podcasts. We're on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Play, Odyssey, anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast. Guess what? We're there. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure that you are subscribing to us. Hit that subscribe button and also hit that notification button. So anytime that we're on, you know that we're on. If you're watching us on Facebook, we are on Conrad Bounty BS, a Star Wars group. If you are checking us on our email, drop us a line at nerdcyclopedia.com, where we get all your feedback and give it right back at you. Dang, I not on my game tonight.
Yeah, guys. Well, yeah, today will be today's going to be a fun show. I think we're going to start it off with the Acolyte. Yeah, I mean, after the Acolyte, we'll lead into our Tales of the Empire. And I will say the reviews are 50-50. Either you loved it or you hated it. And it's not, the hate isn't about the content. I think it's the way the content was laid out. So I think we're going to have some very, very interesting and different talking points about it. But definitely just happy to get some more Star Wars stuff leading into the beginning of June, which will be the Acolyte, which will be this trailer breakdown. So with a further ado, we're going to go into the second trailer of the Acolyte and get some, more thoughts on that, and we'll dive into that and review it.
All right.
Last night, a Jedi was murdered.
The Jedi justify their galactic dominance in the name of peace. But that peace is a lie.
Jedi are being hunted. She was my student. I trained her. Let me be the one to bring her in.
I sense this is only a small part of a larger plan. Some sort of shift to tip the scales. It's time to face the past. Destiny is not decided for you by an anonymous force. If you want to pull the thread and change everything, then pull it.
What are you?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Cue the dark music and red lightsabers. Yes.
You gotta love the red lightsaber.
Yeah.
I love a red lightsaber, but
and a mask with teeth.
of course,
Right,
yeah, that is
shark
kind of
mask.
yeah, right.
Yeah, what is that all
It
about?
kind of
Looks
looked
like a
like
dinosaur.
The teeth are kind of like for the anime fans out there, like the Aaron Yeager Attack on Titan kind of side view. But yeah, it's another story for another day.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool
Yeah.
trailer.
Better than the first one.
Yeah.
More detailed than the first one. More, story reveal, more character reveal. I mean, if you guys were clamoring for like Jedi through all these Star Wars shows and everything, you're getting an abundance of it here.
Yeah, there's been enough
For
of
sure.
the no Jedi bit in Star Wars recently that I'm ready for there to be one that's
Right.
like got a scene where they just sit there and talk about philosophy for 5 minutes, and then you're like, these guys, come on, like move it. Like, I'm ready for that. That's how little Jedi there's been in the Star Wars lately. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of this more, mystical bit of Star Wars.
Right. No, I'm excited too. Definitely, it's a different tale. The only thing that kind of makes me like not second guess anything, but just wonder. I was doing some reading because I obviously did some stuff for Empire Magazine. Like, I hope that they're not going down this whole like dark force user path, because I was of the understanding of this acolyte being like a Sith. But based on kind of what I'm leaning towards now with this mother and whatnot, that they're not. I mean, there's no rule of two. There's going to be no Palpatine, no Vader. Like, so who is the Sith Master, or is this going to just be people that are like dark Jedi? So, I don't know. I'm interested to hear you guys' thoughts on that, because I don't know if we need to go down that path. We've already kind of went down like the Ronin Gray Jedi path, and that's like a split opinion. I really don't think we need to do like a whole dark force user. I mean, we already have now the Inquisitors, so like I don't think we need that. I just want more defined lines. I feel like it's getting a little blurry of like what is what faction. So
This seems like it's going to show us why the Jedi fell, like where their demise was, the big mistakes they made, because at some point they got very passive. They thought they had everything figured out, and they let things sort of slide, and they didn't keep their composure when they should. And I think we're going to see the fall of the, like why they failed, why they were extinguished, and why it was so easy.
right.
I mean, this wasn't something that just happened overnight, but it did seem that way. Like the Jedi just gone.
The fall of the Jedi didn't really start till like the Phantom Menace, right?
It was the beginnings of it.
Yeah,
It was
built up.
beginnings.
Yeah.
So when does this take place? This takes place like about 100 years before that, right?
Yeah, it's like a century.
Yeah.
It's the end of the High Republic. So it's like it's like when the Roman Empire reached the extent of its territory in like I don't know, like 115, right?
Mm-hmm.
The seeds for its destruction had been sown because the social stuff had already been placed, and then it was just like how long can they hold on to everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was a time when they eventually bit something they shouldn't have bit, and it was Dalmatia, by the way. That was the thing they took. It was stuck out like a sore thumb, and they had a lot of wars over it. But essentially, that's what happens here. So there's something that happens that the Jedi overstep, or the Jedi think that they are impervious, or something weird like that. So that's what I'm interested in seeing. And to me, the expectations here, I want to see I want this to have a different flavor, right? This is like I want this to be like pistachio. We've had vanilla software, a Star Wars, chocolate Star Wars, and strawberry Star Wars with the 3 trilogies, right? Now I want some pistachio. It should be completely different. It should feel like the Jedi feel different, right? If there are any characters that span this time frame, I can think of one, obviously, that'll be available. Yoda is still training Jedi at this point, because he's still that, he's still probably about as old comparatively, right? He's still old. He's just like, because how some people are old, they're old, like someone's like an old man forever.
Yeah,
You
they're
know what I
old
mean?
for a
Like 50
long time.
years.
Yeah, I think though, like you're right in this period. Hopefully this will be a more vigilant Yoda than the kind of like the old stubborn one we got to the era of the Republic. So
Well, Yoda in the era Yoda in the prequel trilogy is blinded because of some choice that he makes way earlier, right? And that supposition, which is it can't be possible that the Sith could trick me and they could be on the executive council for the galaxy and I wouldn't know it, right?
Right.
So there has to be something that happens that makes him think that he always is going to be able to feel out the evil. And so it's like the, you know, the shot that sets up the fake later.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of like that. So that's if I'm thinking to myself, what do I want to see here? I want to see some different Star Wars. It looks like we're getting more martial arts, more hand-to-hand combat, right?
Yeah,
Which is
always
good. We've been seeing more of that in the cartoons too, so that's how you know you're
Yeah.
going to see it. You know you're going to see it.
We've got a lot of that in Ahsoka, which is really well. You know that, yeah. The combat has been a lot better, and it's not just saber action. I mean, physical body blows. I mean, it's always cool, and like you're saying, we see more combat rather than just saber swings. I mean, that's always good.
Yeah, it gives you an idea of like where everybody fits on like the head. You know how like Batman versus the Joker is not a fair fight, but how unfair, like that sort of thing, right? So I really am looking forward to that. I want to know more about what the Republic was like before it started being, you know, carved up by special interests and Capital taking over and all that stuff. So I want to see, you know, how that got started. I want to know, like, before the clones, what did they do for a military? Like, was there like a navy or something like that? So there's a lot of questions I have. I hope they do some of that stuff.
I think you're setting yourself up to be disappointed.
Well, as always, I'm going to accept
Yeah,
it. Like,
I'm gonna go
what
with
this
you on
seems
this
like,
one.
I think we're going to see where the Jedi got the mistrust built, because all through Star Wars, people didn't trust the Jedi. They felt they were manipulative. People were afraid of them because they had magical powers, and they overstepped, like you said, Steel City. They overstepped at some point, and that's why their downfall started. So I think that's the story we're going to see in this series. I don't think they're going to get into a whole big political gambit about the old Republic and what that structure looked like. I think we're just going to be talking about Jedi, and I bet you we do not see Yoda. I'll bet, because that's too what's the word? That's too tropey. That's too fanboy. I mean, everyone's going to expect to see Yoda like in a studio with younglings training them. I don't think that this story is even going to revolve. I'll bet you we don't see him. I'll bet.
So
you.
we know where Yoda lives, right? We know his address. We know his address.
We know his address.
He lives at the Jedi Temple. He's there. That's where he lives. We know he lives there.
He's in the basement.
Like if you were a creditor and you were trying to find Yoda, you'd go to the Jedi Temple first. That's the first place you'd go. So you're going to tell me during his definite lifetime, where we know what his job was, which is a training Jedi, because he said he'd been doing it for 8 centuries or some insane amount of time, right? So we know that's the case, and they're not going to show him to us. That's nuts. It's at his house. And I know his house is a big house, but he lives there, right? Like if I said I was going to be at Mount Vernon in 17,
he's a solitary guy. Always was. He wants to like be away from the action. I think that would be too like fanboy to like throw him in there. It'd be.
I'm just going to set a show during the Civil War
it's
in the White House, and it'll have nothing to do with
Yoda. It's called The Acolyte, which is a totally different focus. I just don't think we're going to see it.
If we
do, you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
Maybe
June 4th, we'll see something. You know,
we will.
Hopefully, it's
a double episode as well. 2 episode premiere.
Yeah. Hopefully, it's good. Hopefully, it gives us like surprises like Andor did. Not to say that this is supposed to be like Andor, or going to be like Andor, or whatever, but hopefully, it surprises us like Andor and actually is like really good. You know,
I hope. You know.
Oh yeah, Andor was no good.
My expectations are on the floor. So,
but if they could make an Andor except with Jedi in it, that would be great.
Right.
Andor except with Jedi.
Andor with Jedi.
Yeah, I mean,
call it Star Wars.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I'm excited for it. I just wanted to. I wanted to explain more about, because I just feel like, and we'll get into it as we get into the tales of the Empire. Like, if we're gonna go the dark side route, like we don't need the whole redemption arc. Like, I thought this was gonna be dark, like Empire. Like, I don't want this show to be like this, because it's already setting it up. And the crazy thing is, that's pissing me off, and why I was going on a rant about this is like, I understand stories are reciprocal, and it's just like a cycle, right? Every 100 years, like the Jedi. this happens. But I don't need to goddamn see what I just saw in Obi-Wan and this youngling and this master and hey, I'm gonna try to like, bro, can I please get something else? DP, you're a writer. Like, I understand it.
Yeah, I understand. I don't feel like we're going to get that. I don't even feel like this has like a main character, you know.
But it's setting up that the master is like trying to like bring back his student. Like, can we please just like get something?
Part of that's the dynamic of
I was
of
like,
this
yeah,
training
that's
structure.
exactly.
That's
Right,
story,
right.
isn't
We're
it?
going to have that.
Obi-Wan,
Like, to leave
Anakin.
that in the trailer, like, well, no, I'm
all-
talking
all
about the
there.
whole the Inquisitor story. Like, and we just got that in the Tales of the Empire. Like, bro, how many times am I going to get this? Like, in a year? I understand if it's in cycles, bro. We've seen it literally twice in 8 months. We saw it in Obi-Wan. We saw it in this damn Tales of the Jedi. Like, we just keep seeing this Inquisitor and like, oh, I'm going to redeem you. I played it in the damn Star Wars video game. Like, how many times am I going to just see this redemption arc to where
It
like
did feel like there
they're
were
going to
two of
Yeah.
those this week.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
We saw it
keep
twice.
seeing it. Like, it can be so like go down the path of this acolyte and the Sith, and like if we're in the High Republic, this is the point where the Sith, like the rule of two, isn't happening. It's almost like remember it's the Sith Civil War, like they're gearing up. So let's see that. Like, don't show me this whole like Jedi are being hunted, and then like, well, I'm gonna try to bring her in, but she's like too far
think about it. Like
gone.
you guys remember, like I don't know, 15 years ago, when if I said something to you like, "Hey, your cell phone is telling companies exactly what you're doing right now and all the stuff you're saying," and you'd be like, "Hey, you're crazy. That's insane." That would never be the case. But now I say that, and you're like, "Of course they are. Why wouldn't they do that?" And they're all doing that, right?
It's understood that that's happening. We
Yeah, that's
Right.
a prerequisite, you know.
So back then, if I said exactly the same thing as I'm saying now, right? I'm correct both times, by the way. But I seem like a crazy person the first time I say it, and now when I say it, I seem normal because the facts have borne it out. So part of what's going on in the Acolyte is probably somebody feeling, "Hey, I think the dark side people are starting to accumulate power and it's bad," and everyone going like, shut up, everything's fine. Kind of like
Essentially,
how.
yeah.
Like, hey, the temperature on the dark side's going up a little bit every year. It's real gradual, but it's going up. It's like the dark side's raising the temperature on the conflict in the
We don't
in the
need
galaxy.
to worry about it now. You know.
It's going to be a problem 3-4 generations down the line. Nothing
sounds
we
like
can do anything about.
That sounds like a 3-body problem, you know.
Way down the line, the timeline.
400 years down the line, anyway.
So anyway, you could say the same thing, right? Which is like, all the stuff Dooku says to Anakin and Obi-Wan, like, "Hey, the Dark Lord of the Sith's in charge of the Senate. You wanna join up?" You say that in 100 years before, and you sound crazy. And they take you in, and they probably put you in whatever the Jedi version of jail is, carbonite or whatever they're doing back then. It's the old days. It's probably weird. And then that's that. But you say it, you say it during the Clone Wars, it makes sense. And you say it during the Empire, and it's like official policy. You'd be like, of course he's the Dark Lord. Of course he's in charge of everything, right? I mean, you'd have to say it, or else you're in trouble. So right. I want to see something like that, where it's like, okay, just this one dude who's the guy from Squid Game. By the way, right? Isn't that he's the guy from Squid Games? This is gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to Acolyte still. That trailer has to be jazzed up.
Hey, it's new Star Wars content that's live action. How often do we
It
get
is.
that?
Yeah, hopefully a lot more. But I will say that the cartoons are definitely leading the way right now as far as content.
They're the only things we got right now. You know, when's the last thing we got? Ahsoka, and that's sort of like petered off a bit and everything. So I'm just itching for some more live action Star Wars stuff.
Well, think about how much exponentially easier it is to make an animated series. I mean, you don't have to worry about obviously makeup or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just easier to do. Plus, I mean, you have to figure with artificial intelligence and all the stuff that's going on with that, it's gotta be getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper to make.
Think about it, yeah. You don't even have to ship the artists anymore to like a studio. I mean, they're recording a lot of stuff on, the same mics that we use for streaming. Like, it's not
that's true.
Special effects are unlimited. What you can do, you can do whatever you want.
Since COVID happened, that really sped up the process for these actors to be able to work remote. Like, think about it. We talked about what with not Oscar Isaac, but Pedro Pascal and him doing other movies and like doing the Mandalorian voiceovers. Like, bro's on the set of another movie, probably not sleeping at all because at night he's doing the voiceover for his Mandalorian part. So now that they're able to do this remotely and not have to necessarily come into the Skywalker Ranch or a studio, it's just making these guys be able to do way much more, especially with the animated stuff. So it gives us more content. I love it.
Technology. Yep.
Right.
It's crazy. Like if I said right now that I could make a cartoon, a Star Wars cartoon that was, quality, and it was exactly as good as what Disney could do right now from my basement, you think I'm crazy. But 15 years from now, who knows? Maybe that's possible. It's just everybody has their own, canon universe where head canon is canon, and everybody's in charge. It'll be weird.
Yeah.
All right, sorry guys. This has got me.
It's a good
Thinking in a weird direction tonight.
It's a good segue into obviously the Tales of the Jedi, or Tales of the Empire, I should say, but really, was it Tales of the Jedi again? Whatever. I was extremely pissed when I watched it. Like,
I could tell because the text change was silent for the past 2 days.
When I saw, I was fuming because I watched it a couple times.
There was no Trenton. It was no T. Mitch text coming from the Carbonite crew.
No, I literally went. So when I watched it, because I was so excited, I was literally like stunned, like this is what I got excited for, because and I can't wait, because I have some quotes from Ken that's going to change his thoughts, right? So I got some direct quotes from Ken that he said that we double backed on this show, right? So we're going to lead off with this. Ken, you had said that when we talked about this, about some of my thoughts and why they should have did this in the Bad Batch, your quote was, "We don't need to know about Kamino. We don't need to know about cloning. We don't need an explanation of everything," right? Okay, cool. So when I watched this show, then why the hell did I need the retcon Morgan Elsbeth? I've just seen her twice on 2 different shows, right? I didn't need to know how she came into power. We didn't need to waste 40 minutes of the 60.
Sure, we did. Sure, we did. Because we're finding out that she was a very special. She was a very special part of the Empire's technology in advancement.
That was 1 or 2
ways to. I mean, I took this just as a new, just like the Tales of the Jedi. Tales of the Jedi had the same sort of. It didn't really fit with anything, but it gave us some backstory. So
why is the backstory
I like
all
the
about
backstory of Morgan? I like the idea that Grievous showed up and wiped out her family, yet she still decided to side herself with evil, even though the evil destroyed her family. Yeah. So there's a very interesting dichotomy there, where you have a person who's conflicted on several fronts, and that's why the Empire was able to get in, control her, but they found a use for her. And it's interesting that she was actually, I read a little bit, she's actually responsible for getting shields on the TIE fighters, which was very important, and that had to make a lot of stormtroopers very happy. She also helped to refine all the technology from not only starships, but just bases, and made it easier for the Empire to establish itself on rocks, just planets with no civilization, so they could exploit the resources. So it's interesting that they focused on these actually 2 characters, the good and the bad, the good, the bad. There was no ugly. Grievous was the ugly. But
based on the trailer, based on the trailers we got, that's what you really expected, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, sure.
Oh my God! Wow.
What were you expecting them to do? Like, tell us the entire story?
I expected to hear the people that you talk about. Like, we talk about Tarkin. Like, if you're talking about the whole prequel of Morgan Elsbeth, the first 2 episodes were about her, and they were about the Night Sisters. Nothing to do with the Empire. So we wasted 28 minutes on Night Sisters. Nothing to do with the Empire, Ken.
I think it had a lot to do with the Empire.
And then her last episode actually definitely took place after the Empire, right?
Yeah, correct. It was the prequel to Ahsoka, because they burnt they burnt the trees down, and she literally was running through it. So it led, and Thrawn was there. It literally led up to, that's why her knowing that she knew Thrawn. She was told by a villager where she was, and that literally leads to Ahsoka. So why are we doing? That's what I'm saying. Why are we doing this Filoni stuff? When you talk about we didn't need that information, People want to know about the Empire. We don't need to know about the Mandalorian verse. We could have went into Tarkin. We could have did more about that extra.
They're telling us we got so Gideon.
This was
Gideon was introduced a little bit, and that he's important. He's another one that died on the Death Star, but he was a big he was part of the Empire's infrastructure, and it was nice to see him get some screen time because he doesn't normally get it. He was a trading card. That's about it. Never even got an action figure of the guy.
I don't think I was as down on it as you, T. Mitch. I sort of see where you're coming from as far
I'm
as
not down on it. It was cool, but it's just not Tales of the Empire.
I think you have expectations on a lot of this content, expect coming from Bad Batch and this and everything. That I think you're just, I'm ready. You're ready for more of a answers wealth of information and stuff that some of this content is just not giving you right now.
I'm just asking for credit. I'm just asking for good shit. Like that's all I'm asking for. I don't think that's me being greedy.
You didn't think this was any good?
It was okay, but it wasn't Tales of the Empire.
That's what it was called. Tales of the Empire.
I'm sympathetic, and I'll tell you why. So when I was a younger man, my friends and I were going to go see.
Was that last week?
A young
lad.
This is
a long time. This is how long ago it was. So we were going to go see Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man, the movie theater, and we went out there. And we got there, and I think one of my friends had already seen Spider-Man, and so instead we saw Deuces Wild, which is a terrible movie. It's an awful movie. So I went out to the mall expecting to see Spider-Man, and instead I saw Deuces Wild. Now, I now think that's one of the worst, probably 4, maybe 5 movies ever made. Is it really though, or is it just that my expectation was not met? By reality.
Yeah. You got a really.
No,
bad
I see what you're saying.
The chick from The Craft is like the main love interest. It's a weird movie, guys. You got to check it out.
No,
So I'm trying to make a West Side Story.
Ken, I by no means am I saying that this show was crap. I'm just saying it wasn't what it should have been. That's all I'm saying. It was good. It was a cool show.
No, T. Mitch, you're projecting because.
Because
if you can expect,
I think it was Empire. It was showing us how bad they are, and they're like
Morgan Elsbeth is one person.
Let's look at Tales of the Jedi. So I guess my expectations when I seen that, and I appreciated the first Ahsoka story, but I didn't really expect them to focus a lot on Ahsoka throughout the Tales of the Jedi. They could have called it Tales of Ahsoka and what's his face, for that, for the 6 episodes they did as shorts as far as that and everything. They focus a lot on Ahsoka, which we already seen in Clone Wars, So we're going right back to, if you're call it something, make it about what it is and everything. Whereas this is about Tales of the Empire, they focus more on Morgan and everything. I appreciate the fact, okay, we're getting Morgans. We want to see more about, the Empire workings, the inner workings of the Empire, what's going on in the deep trenches of the Empire. Morgan stuff could have been her own story and a separate thing. Either they could have did more.
There we go. That's exactly my point.
Or they should have just stuck with one story of Morgan and went to something else. So to call it like Tales of the Empire was the same way to me, was the same way they did with Tales of the Jedi. But I came in expecting, I did not expect the Tales of the Empire. I sort of expected it was the same thing they did with Tales of the Jedi. Focus on 1 or 2 characters, and that's it. So I'm not projecting my expectations of the same way as, you, T. Mitch, onto this thing that they're going to just delve into this, delve straight into like the meat and potatoes of the Empire. That's because of just what they did with Tales of the Jedi.
But you're basically proving my point, though, that you had expectations that it wasn't going to be what you wanted it to be.
See, I gotta agree with T. Mitch, because it's not enough Empire. And anytime you have no lines from Darth Vader, despite his cameo appearance.
Yeah, what's that?
I mean, that's whack. That sucks. So I just got to say that was a poor use. And it's because it's really, that's like a video game thing, right? Like you get to the end,
it's like the final boss. He's just sitting in like Shao Kahn. That's the Shao Kahn thing.
Except you find out that he's your boss, right? And that's the end of that. That's the end of that stuff. So yeah, I definitely think, and the other thing is Morgan's just, she's portrayed as some genius, but her thing is like, hey, if we put shields on our fighter planes, we'll be able to use 1/10 as many pilots. And the guy's just like, you know what? We're just gonna come steal your trees. And like that's pretty much like that's pretty much what they see in it. It's hilarious. So there is some Empire action, but her last story does take place. It's a New Republic. Takes place after the Battle of Endor, obviously, because the New Republic's coming to show up. And she does something terrible. She murders an ambassador. That is a terrible thing to do. And anybody that ever does that has horrible, awful things happen to them, and negative things consequences befall them. Getting all the way back to the Spartans, who had a terrible day at Thermopylae. So I am agreeing with T Mitch that it's not named right, and that our expectations are probably not set great. But these Tales of series are just really. It seems like this is going to be like character studies, like 3-episode character studies sitting next to each other.
That would be cool if they did. Yeah, that's what it is.
And they showed how two different characters handled the same opposition. So
which is
Barriss fell, and then she at the end she sort of found herself and came back.
Of course, we didn't see that in the end of Obi-Wan.
Morgan had several moments of sort of,
but that wasn't her true ending. But okay, it's funny. So we're talking about that. So we're going to talk about the Inquisitors again. That's the Empire. That's the truth. That's the
one interesting thing. It's been introduced now through these new stories. Something I never,
So out of all the generals we talk about, that's what you wanted to hear is the Inquisitors, because we got that once again. As me and Hitch just said, we got the prequel of the Inquisitors already. Why again? And then they show the guy. I don't know if you've seen him. Marok was in it. So is the guy a ghost or is he a person? Because they literally just said on the show they recruited people, but then he like is a puff ghost in the show. So what is he?
Did they know Anakin? Some of these people knew Anakin Skywalker, right?
These Inquisitors were in the
so like shouldn't she have been like holy shit, Darth Vader's Anakin, like she noticed it's the Anakin,
exactly who he was. She would have known.
It should have been that could have been an interesting moment that they didn't. They couldn't. He didn't have to talk to that.
So did Lynn. Lynn would have known it as well, which is crazy.
I mean, that would be weird, right? Like if they brought in the Duke of York and it was just some kid like you went to elementary school with, and you'd be like, wait, you'd be like, whoa, like Bob, is that you? And you'd be like, nope. I'm the Lord of the galaxy, the Dark One.
I don't know. Like I said, the content was cool, but it was just like the same of we already had. It was just more Mandoverse stuff. And I was more on Ken's side, like I wanted to see more of the Tarkins. Like it doesn't always have to be the Force. They could have spent 2 episodes and focused on like a general or something like that, just to give us a little more exposition. It doesn't have to be just about Mandalorian. They could have paid off the whole Stardust project, right? We could have did something about Jen Erso's dad. Like, if we're going to go back and replay things, we could have done like the beginning of the Death Star, how they start building it. They started in Andor. Why couldn't we continue that story a little bit more when we talk about the Empire?
And we got it at the end of what we just at Bad Batch. We got a little bit, so they could have connected.
Oh yeah, you could have connected that instead of everything's focused towards. I feel like the Mandoverse.
I mean, it's still all Star Wars.
Don't they have a Mando movie coming out?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like,
well, it makes sense. So, we're just telling us, right? This is telling us that Thrawn is going to be a big piece of the next. Obviously, we know Thrawn's going to be a big piece of the next part of the story. Morgan's going to be a big piece of the next part of the story.
Mm-hmm. Setting up those bases. Right. Yeah.
Filling
out a little bit of Morgan stuff.
Is Morgan not dead? Do you think they resurrect her when they get home because they're about to?
Nobody's dead. Nobody's dead.
You know that.
Nobody ever dies.
Barriss isn't even dead, and we watched her die.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and Lynn. I thought Lynn died. I thought Lynn got pushed into a crevasse.
Can we just do this one time real quick, okay? So, and this is why I was furious. This is how picky I am, and I know I'm crazy, but I love Star Wars like you guys. How in the fuck does Lynn survive that? And Jedi Master Windu doesn't. Explain that to me.
Maybe a clone. Maybe she's a clone. They clone her.
Bro, that literally blew my mind. And she didn't die, but I literally watched one of the greatest Jedi of all time die out of falling out of a window, which he could have landed on a car, as I seen like 20 minutes beforehand. Anakin do, which was a Padawan at the time.
All these Jedi are jumping out of orbital orbital ships, right?
you know what
When
I
it's
mean?
like at orbital velocities and slowing themselves down and not dying and splattering. When they, when you think the speed would be such that they'd burn up as soon as
Yeah.
they open up the hatch. So you got to believe that they can survive a little fall off a tiny little mountain or one of, I don't know, like the Empire State Building. They'd probably be fine, but who knows? But Mace Windu got shot full of Emperor strength electricity,
Right.
dark energy, right? Like, I mean, he took
That might
it
have
like
weakened him. That might have weakened him just a little bit, just enough.
point
Enough,
blank
huh?
to the face after having his arm cut off.
To the
I mean,
face.
Yeah.
I mean, that's I don't know. Like if anybody's gonna get killed by force lighting, it's gonna be that guy. The guy that just after all that feedback too, and he just disfigured himself and he just took power, killed all those Jedi. I don't know. I'd believe it if he was dead, but I would also believe it if Mace Windu was not dead and that somebody was able to convince via dump trucks full of money Samuel L. Jackson to return to the role. I would be interested in seeing what happened next. I'd be interested in having him come out of the woodwork sometime in the Mando era, right? Just like, oh crap, he's been alive this whole time, just hanging out.
Right? Some old guy, like kind of like almost like they did the old Rex, right? We've seen that, like just like it would be an old version of him. But like I said, I didn't think the shows were crap. I thought the runtime was crap. I like the information. I would just rather, like when I saw this, the Morgan stuff, give the actress is phenomenal. Give her a live action show. Call it Morgan Elsbeth. Like, do more of these dark tales. I just feel like when I saw this Tales of the Empire, it was going to be more dark. But then we do the Barriss Offee thing, and I'm like, oh, here's a redemption arc. Like, can we just please have like some dark content that's fun?
I kind of agree with you there. I thought it was
you know
going to
what I
be
mean?
straight. Like if you're going to do Tales of the Jedi, the lighter side. This was supposed to be the more dark, more moody, more okay. I mean, we got like the beginnings with the her whole family being killed and all that stuff, and I thought it was going to maintain that tone, but it didn't. Which is I guess fine, but I thought it was going to be. I thought the tone was going to be a lot more dark.
It did end on a light note. Like it was
always. It wasn't then Tales of the Jedi. They became two Jedi again.
But we're going to get more of this. I'm assuming. I mean, this was season 1, and there was no finale. It just ended. But the story needs to continue. This wasn't a one and done. This wasn't a one shot. If it was a one shot, then I'd be a little bit.
Well, these characters are a one shot. I mean, it became at the end Tales of the Jedi because it was 2 redeemed dark side users that now were, I guess, gray Jedi because they are not. They've mentioned it. They weren't necessarily a part of the dark. At least Barriss was, and I think Lynn was at the end when she left the saber on the ground.
It's interesting that there is no Jedi, right? Almost like the same way.
Right? Yeah.
If the Roman Catholic Church incorporated, right, the whole structure of it just kind of went away, and people still went to church and like did the communion and did all that stuff. There'd still be people that were practicing the religion, but there wouldn't be a church. So would they really be quote Catholic unquote, or would it be something different? That's what I think these guys are all dealing with.
No Jedi. There were no Jedi in this at all. It was it was strictly bad
Well,
guys.
the Jedi. The Jedi was killed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we don't know what's wrong with him. They just cut that off. So
yeah, who was that one that you talking about? That one Jedi that got killed?
Yeah.
I thought that was Kanan at some point.
She saved him, and then that gets cut. And I thought it was going to pick up after that, but there was a time lapse of where she was a hermit, and then
how long was she out there? That looked like it was like 35 years, like not like 15 years. It looks so long. And I know people, I mean, I'm not trying to look at a picture of me from 15 years ago or anything like that either, right? But you know what I'm saying? Like it just felt like a long time. They're calling her like venerated mother. And I thought she was only like I thought she was basically Ahsoka's age. I thought they were like the same.
She was, mid-20s. I was thinking mid-20s. Like I didn't know that she was that old, but
so
she was like a young teen.
Make me understand the planets that they that one place where they burned down the trees and all that stuff. That we seen that already in the Mandalorian. We seen
the beginning of that Ahsoka episode.
Right.
Yep.
All right, so we saw that. That one scene there when they went to the planet where what happened? Where they had the creatures like coming out, sort of
like the snow cats. That was like almost like the episode 9 with the snow foxes.
So was that the same place that we seen Ezra at the end of, towards like the end of Ahsoka? Was that the same place?
They didn't say what that planet was.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have the facts.
Okay,
on
all
that.
right. So maybe that wasn't. And then that one place where the he was banging the chimes, or the church bell or whatever. That we didn't see. Did we see that in Andor or no? Or was that just a different?
No, that was a
A
different
bell.
thing. The gong was
Yeah.
different. in
That's
Andor.
that planet that Ahsoka shows up and takes Morgan.
Yeah, that's the same.
It's the same
That was
place.
like, yeah, that was a whole.
All the same
like,
characters, so it's the same. That might have happened like a week before Ahsoka showed up, and it certainly seems like that's the reason she
Yeah.
showed up. It's like, oh, you can't because you can't again just be killing ambassadors and getting away with it. It's not a good thing to let happen. If it happened right now in our world, it would be a huge, big problem and huge deal if it happened.
I mean,
So it's
but
all good.
but I think that, like I said, that was not Tales of the Empire. That was like a prequel to Ahsoka or like The Mandalorian. Like, it was good how they explained kind of what happened, and that was basically the alarm bell. Republic senator gets killed by Morgan Elsbeth. When somebody gets word out that Thrawn was there, that all these Empire starships were there, so and that's why she went looking for him, because she knew that he was there. So I thought it was great building for this Mandoverse and what's going on, but I don't know. Like I said, maybe my expectation.
I don't like when you call call it Mandoverse. I feel it's all Star Wars, so it's like why are you separating it to like its own like thing and stuff?
Because this is
acolyte and stuff. Because that's not like it's all Star Wars, right?
Yeah, but the Mandoverse is like a saga. It's like the Infinity Saga. This is Filoni's vision of where this Star Wars is. So when we get to,
but it's still all
post-school,
Star Wars.
but it's I don't know.
But to me, like, if you want to quibble about this, the real quibble is that these characters aren't as important as other characters that don't have as much of a backstory. Like, for instance, Deidre Miro from Andor, or Kino Loy from Andor. Like, those are some characters that have I don't know anything about them. And
Deidre is somebody that could have been in Tales of the Empire, because that's more like. And Andor did a deeper dive in the Empire than this did, right? Because you're getting.
Yeah, there were some other characters that they could have like focused on, but I understand why they did this, because this is what we're all watching. This is what's going on like right now. This is
sort of like
I do think
the hot topic.
I do think it's mislabeled though. Like to Tina's point, it's not about the Empire. It's about I don't know, these characters that are like minor
after the Empire, then. So this isn't the Empire. This is the First Order, correct? The Empire fell already.
Well, this is like, this is the Andor time period. So like 6.
Well, no, I'm talking about that. Isn't that Ahsoka episode leading up to?
Yes, but that happens at 6 years after the Battle of Yavin. So we know
that would be the First Order.
No, the First Order is way down the line. That's like 30 years after the Battle of Yavin. So So this murder of the ambassador takes place sometime between the Battle of Andor and about 6 years after the Battle of Yavin.
So that's 6 years.
About 3 years. It's about 3 years.
I see what you're saying. So this is the remnants of the Empire,
right? And then
I think the time frame, we need to make sure we're correct, because when that happens, when that ambassador is assassinated, she came down and told the people that the Empire has been defeated, and Wing said, we get information differently and at different times, or something like that. So we don't really know exactly how long this was. I mean, if you look at her guards, they looked like rebel soldiers, like what you would kind of inscripted rebel soldiers. So I don't think we're too far past. Maybe we're just a smidge past. Maybe we're somewhere during the Battle of Endor, because the Empire is still kind of there.
It seems like what happened is there was like a style thing where everybody adopted all the Alderaanian stuff as like a symbol of like F Palpatine and like support the resistance, and like I'm just going to dress up
that makes sense. Bail Organa, that whole thing, because we had that in the Leia portion of Kenobi. We had that sort of New Republic look with the military. So
dressing like the 70s with subversive people would come out like wearing bell bottoms. Like, you son of a bitch.
Harsh tones for everyone, and they expected everyone. Did did that sent now think about this? Did that ambassador really think that she was going to walk into this situation with 5 guards and that's it? Like
And an
that's it.
R2
That's her entire entourage. No weapons drawn or no nothing. She was just going to walk in there and negotiate. And I think that's foresighted. That is poor foresighted, just leadership. Like she should have been stacked. Like she should have been well armed when she walked in there. So it wasn't all Morgan's fault that ambassador died.
Wow, Ken, that's pretty crazy.
That's cruel, man. I don't think you do that.
She literally had him blow her ship up and then like basically lit her on fire. Told him
Hey,
to burn
she came down with 5 guards and a droid. Come on.
Come on,
I'm making an example of her too.
I didn't. Wow, Ken. I knew you were. I knew your eyes were as red as ours. I knew it.
Red lightsaber today, Ken.
Yeah.
I might even cut her head off and put it on a pike in front of the whole thing.
Whoa.
We would have to start a new segment, Red Lightsaber today. Like somebody every day has this extra bit of Sith in them. Somebody gets the lightsaber for the red lightsaber.
Am I wrong? I mean, do you think she like didn't plan ahead appropriately? Wouldn't you have come down with a little more than what she did? If you
she thought it was for a peaceful negotiation. Like she was like Senator like Organa. She thought it was going to be a peaceful negotiation.
And what did the past 40 years tell you about that?
Literally, she was like, they kind of threw her into the loop because they were like, bro, why are you telling us what to do? You were just here like a couple months ago. Like she was like a peasant that got elevated to like some kind of imperial, I don't know, some republic status. And everybody was looking at her side-eyed like.
And Morgan even said, you felt you were, above us. That's why you left. Yeah. So
you're saying
don't forget the New Republic is feckless and incompetent. And they're terrible at everything, and they think they've beaten the Empire so severely that the Empire is done and it's never coming back. So why would they assume that this planet is helping
the Empire comes back
somehow?
What do you mean somehow? They show up with like fucking 2 Star Destroyers and like an like Thrawn pulls up, and I'm like, yo, shit! It's like the damn presidential motorcade shows up. I'm like, and you thought the Empire was gone? They literally just pulled out at light speed, and you're like looking up, and I'm like, oh shit! That was
somehow Palpatine returned.
And the crazier part about that is, that this maybe ties in this, and me and Hitch, we talk about this all the time. That showing those ships at this time period kind of ties into the only person with no Exegol at this point would be Thrawn, because his people, the Chiss, are from out the Unknown region. So that would make sense if there's still these giant Star Destroyers, if they thought they destroyed them all, where they can come from. So that, to me, is a breadcrumb. If we're talking about this Filoni knitting this fabric together, that will be a breadcrumb to me to leading towards how this guy somehow has 7,000 fucking Star Destroyers on a planet. It's a piece of a breadcrumb.
Once you put shields on them, you don't have to replace them every 3 seconds. I mean, it makes I just love the idea that Morgan's just like it's just like a picture of a pilot, and like she's pointing at it, and then a money bag, and then pointing at the money bag, and feel like, and then there's a less than sign, and she's circling it.
I thought she was gonna
no.
I thought she was gonna tell him about fucking Flex Seal tape or something to put on the fucking like, bro. Like she's almost like Billy Mays, whatever whatever.
Your ships are expensive, and yet they don't catch on fire, so that's 2 strikes.
Right. Then they turn around and recruit. They try to kill her, and then they recruit like, "Oh no, we're just fucking with you. Like, come on, get up off the ground."
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Right. That was like her initiation. That's her gang initiation. They had to like beat her ass up a little bit and see if she can defend herself.
Thrawn had the best lines in all 6 episodes. Thrawn had the best lines. The bit about the Empire thinks it's pretty great, but he can see the cracks in the infrastructure, and that's what he's there to do. So Thrawn's the flex tape for the Empire. Thrawn's the one that's going to come in.
He said the rebellion was the beginning of a sickness. He was like, it was so much disdain in his voice when she mentioned about the rebellion. He was like, it's a sickness.
Well,
So
here's
don't yeah.
well, there's an inevitable destabilization period coming that gets closer every day, right? When you have an emperor, and it's succession, and there is no succession. I mean, you assume. I assume that at the end of the day, Darth Vader would be the one standing atop the pile of corpses, but that's not a succession plan per se, right? It's not the same exact thing. So I
It'd be
think
great.
that's
I'd like to see a sketch of that. That would be great. Darth Vader standing on a giant pile of burning corpses. I'd like to see that.
But that all gets triggered when Palpatine dies, and every day it becomes more likely that he does. Just like we went through that with the Queen, right? For like 30 years. So every day it was more likely that you'd wake up and the Queen would have died until it eventually happened. So that's what Thrawn is talking about. The chink in the armor is that Palpatine can do this, and Palpatine has all these capabilities, but Palpatine is not going to be the Emperor forever. And if Palpatine is one of the best possible ever, like, shady dealers and backroom cooers, plotter, then you replace Palpatine with anybody else, you're gonna drop a little bit. Like, there's no way you're gonna get a second one that's gonna be as like that. So that's the weakness, and it's the same weakness Palpatine sees, right?
Yeah.
That's why he's trying to clone himself, why he's trying to extend his life through all means. And in all fairness to Thrawn, what happens? Palpatine dies, the Empire collapses right away. So he's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
But then again, we don't think he's evil because he's stupid. He's very smart.
Yeah, but he's going to pick up the pieces. He's there to put everything back together again. And he's coming from a different angle, though.
But Ken, don't you think to me and Hitch's point as far as this, and I guess, DP is like the middleman. If we're doing Tales of the Empire, we could have skipped the Inquisitor and the Barasafi thing, could have did the Morgan prequel, because that's to this current era, if we don't call it the Mandoverse, but the current era of Star Wars. And then the back half would be like a Thrawn prequel.
Whoa.
Because are we gonna get that before this movie, or are they just gonna just dump it on there and then waste time in the movie doing these flashbacks?
I would much rather have a lot more Thrawn in this Tales of the Empire. Because they're just introducing Thrawn in the whole thing, and I don't know how much background we're going to get on Thrawn before this movie comes out. He needs to have
more post Empire. The Empire fell, and he's more what happens next.
There's a whole story. So if you use Thrawn and your intention is to tell the story for him now that he's back in the galaxy, you have this whole beginning part of the Thrawn story that ends with Thrawn leaves the galaxy with the Star Destroyer, or whatever forces. So that story, the ending of it, and basically who has to still be on the ship when it comes back. So like him and the Admiral Paleon, right? Like, those guys are coming back. Right. You're going to send him off with a bunch of shiny stormtroopers that come back all sorts of messed up. We don't know. They see some stuff when they're gone. Right. So that's all compelling characters we're going to see later. So if they wanted to tell the story of how, why all that happened, or what Palpatine told him to do, or how Palpatine recruited him, or where the Chiss Empire is, those are all very interesting points that we really haven't seen. So I'd be interested to see all of that. And if you're telling me a Tales of the Empire, and you're going to tell me that now, hey, the next media I'm showing you, the Empire and Thrawn are pretty much the same thing, I would want to see as much Thrawn as possible. And I think they could have given me some more.
Yes. Yep.
Hey, Hitch, to bring up one of the final points on today's episode, that brings up a super interesting time frame point. So when the hell did this actually happen? Because I thought he was with Ezra right now in the Unknown Regions. If this is leading up to where we are, where the hell did this happen at in the time frame? Because he's with Ezra right now, on that, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to figure out when this happened.
So there's a battle during the Remnant where Thrawn.
This is before Ezra and him go and do the jump.
That Thrawn and Morgan talk. Then the New Republic ambassador comes. That's later, after Morgan's been doing Lord knows what, building these. We assume the advanced TIE fighters, right? For Thrawn.
Yeah.
So that amount of time has passed. So Thrawn, between the time when we see him talking to Morgan and the time when he's on Pandora or wherever the hell in the other galaxy, has a battle, a final battle with the Remnant, and then absconds into space, or is shot into space, or blown up, or something happens, and he ends up in the other galaxy and can't get back. So that happens in the interim, and now Morgan is right there, I guess, and on.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I see what you're
is
saying.
it only maybe a year or two, or
Yeah, there's
is
no
it,
way because
is it
Ezra's
like
way
a
older.
time? Is it
There
like
has to
is he
be.
moving through time? Maybe Is
They
he-
have to because the time jump between Ezra's when he left to where we see him now is like there's been I forget the year she said
It's
it.
about 10 years because it's about 5 years before
Right.
Yavin,
Yeah.
and then all that stuff takes place 6 years after
Ezra's been missing about 10
After
years.
Jedi.
So,
about 10 years.
right.
10 years.
And I think there was a time jump in between the seasons of Ahsoka, anyways, right? Pretty sure there was. a
Yeah,
little bit
I
of
mean,
it.
there's got to be. It's
Yeah.
they've got a lot of explaining to do. To quote
Yeah.
Ricky
So-
Ricardo.
Right. But no, I mean, I guess overall, it wasn't bad content. It was just like I said, maybe my expectations, especially when we saw the trailer, like to see Grievous that quickly, I'm like,
You-
what? Like,
You,
I don't know.
you know what? I was watching Black Widow on FX the other day, actually yesterday, and I remember seeing it in theater. And this is what happens with me, especially with a lot of Marvel's movies. I watch the movies, and my expectations are projected, and I want to see some things that's just doesn't end up being on screen. I get frustrated, like, okay, well, it's okay, but I wanted to see more and stuff. So after seeing Black Widow again, because I haven't watched it really since it came on, in a show and everything, that was actually a really good movie. It wasn't a great movie, but it was a good sit down watch movie when I had no expectations, to project it on it and everything. So sometimes I think, when we look through the lens of expectations and we get disappointed when we don't see what we want to see, then it just you're setting yourself up for a letdown. And I see where you're coming from, T Mitch, but I think after a few days, hindsight or whatever, you're going to go back and watch this and be like, okay, well, this is some pretty good content still.
I
It's
think
good.
I
It's just
know.
not it's just the name is wrong. Me and him, that's all I'm saying. It's just.
I think
totally
also
wrong.
there's one other thing that's missing from this, and that is what's awesome about somebody that's evil is when they show up and there's someone worse than them, and they
Exactly.
just mess them up good. So like maybe there is literally they're literally like murdering kids or something. Just something terrible, and the Darth Vader shows up and goes, "Well, we'll put an end to that." It's awesome, right? We
Right.
didn't get anything like that because there wasn't a worse thing.
We
that's
had
what
we had the whole twin sunset ending, and I didn't need that in the Dark Side story.
Yeah.
I wanted the Rogue One ending is what I wanted, like something sad to be like, bro, that's how fucked up the Empire is.
You won't get that too often on a Disney property, man.
Right.
They
Well,
got
we'll
lucky
see.
with that one, T Mitch.
We might
they
get that
did.
in Acolyte though,
Because
Acolyte
that
looks like
was supposed to
Probably not.
happen. I guess if you want to call it a better ending or whatever, because it did lead to A New Hope, because they did get the the thing off to Princess
Yeah.
Leia and stuff. So other than Darth Vader doing his thing at the end, which was the greatest thing ever, it did lead off into like a more of a hopeful type ending with Andor.
I feel like it also succeeded in setting the stakes for A New Hope as being extremely high and really hammering home like the rebellion is screwed. They are they are screwed, and the Death Star is done, and they are
And we
now
understood how much they had to overcome. We understood what the rebellion was really up against.
Right.
So
But that's
Maybe-
an interesting point about expectation and how, and I think you run into that a lot with fandom, especially with Star Wars and Marvel and whatever. When you think and talk a lot about it, it's hard to sometimes be neutral to what is on the screen because you're comparing it to what you've written in your head, and that's not always fair because obviously what you write in your head is going to make you the happiest because you wrote it.
True.
They call
But as far as headcanon, and this is once again me trying to be even-handed, then I would expect more from Filoni, being somebody who knows what we know. Like we talk about this, right? This is not being hypocritical. This is me being honest. We talk about he's one of us, right? But then we keep getting this. And I'm like, bro, you're one of us. We have very similar thought processes, and this is what you put out. That's where I'm at. That's just me being honest, me being even-handed. Like,
but he also is in charge of other things like getting this movie out. He has hindsight.
Bro, I get it, but we have to be even-handed. This was the savior, and this is what we got. He's one of us. and this
Just-
is not.
Just give me some Darth Vader lines next time, Dave. Let's have. I mean, we know you got the AI voice.
Hey, they
We know you
paid.
got it. Flex it.
Yeah.
They did.
Use
They paid him. They
Use
paid him.
Mr. Jones. You know, Mr. Jones has put it down for us. We want that voice, and we want it to sound a little bit
Cranky.
computery.
He didn't. Yeah. He didn't even choke anybody. I was actually a little upset, but it's all right. Yeah.
Didn't even
It's
choke
alright.
anybody.
Oh, no.
That Darth.
No, it's you're right.
He
Yeah.
could have choked some kids.
They were all kids basically, so he could have
He
choked
could
one
have
of
choked
them.
them. He could have choked them all out. Whatever.
Hey,
No,
he has
but,
history.
Yeah, but no, guys, it's definitely been a fun episode. I think a little more contentious than some would have thought, but I don't know. I think, like I said, good episode, maybe wrong. Good show is just wrong name, wrong name. But I'm happy that we got more Star Wars content. Hopefully, we get another season of this. I'd just like them to continue these tales and expand the time frame and maybe expand the characters or whatever. Make it 10
I hope
episodes.
they do a
and-
whole Jar Jar Binks
Yeah.
one, all about Jar Jar.
Wow.
How to even get to the surface of Naboo? Why was he banished? What's going on with Jar Jar now?
You know
Was
what?
he-
If I turn on Disney Plus and I see a trailer for Tales of the Naboo, I'm out.
I
Ken,
wanna
that's
see them
bad.
do a whole-
Even Ken would not give that a 10 out of 10. That's crazy. I'm waiting for that episode.
I wanna
I'll
see an
defend
episode of
Jar Jar Binks with his character, what his purpose was in Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. But beyond that, I'm out. Get rid of him.
Wow, you've heard it here first, guys. This is not going to be a 10 out of 10.
a hit put out on Jar Jar Binks.
Maybe we'll call up what's his name?
150,000 credits to the person
yeah.
that can bring me his ears.
Whoa!
Cad Bane.
I want that
Cad Bane.
gun dead.
Yep, Cad Bane. You have it, guys. We have a bounty out for him. But
So Cad Bane,
yeah,
that's the gold standard, right? Is Cad Bane a better bounty
right
hunter?
now.
But-
I mean, at least he doesn't do like the little pacifist thing at the end as of now. So
That's true. Boba
Right.
Fett's really more of a sheriff, less of a
no,
bounty
yeah,
hunter these days.
right, yeah.
All right.
But no, guys, we digress. It's been a fun episode. We're gearing up, so it looks like obviously I thought this was going to be one a week and we'd have a little more, but looks like we can get back to that fan fiction, guys. So yeah, keep an eye out, and we're going to let you guys know here coming up the next week when we get back into some fan fiction stuff. But until then, guys, this is the way.
This is the way.